Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce, Michael, and Ivy. I know a story of high strangeness or two. Let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan.
Bryce Johnson.
With me always is that's a great joke that no one's gonna get because
They're gonna get it. Hey everybody, they think my computer's lagging, so I had to jump the gun on that. How'd that come in?
He time traveled into the future and then had a lag. You just missed it.
If you could only see Michael's face.
we also have with us super producer
Riley Bray. Hi, guys.
Hi, boys.
Hi,
What's
Michael.
up?
Well,
Hi,
listen.
time traveling Bryce.
If we're just jumping to it, I say we jump right in because
Let's
we have
jump.
two awesome guests with us this week who are here to discuss a project that is close to our own hearts. But before we bring them in, Riley, let's nominate our 5-star Club Scout of the week. This is a Club Scout who has recently given us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Well, yes, we nominate K. Joseph Harold, who says 100% 5 stars. Absolutely love BCC. These gentlemen send me on a wild, thoughtful ride every time. They should have an amusement park all of their own. Sunglasses, smiley face. I think that's the text interpretation of the copy emoji.
That's right.
Can't wait for the next episode. Kimberly, 5 stars.
Thank you, Kimberly. I could not find the sunglasses smiley face when I was transcribing this review onto the Google Doc, so I wrote
like
it
that
out
review.
phonetically. I do too. I like it's wild, but also thoughtful.
I want to go to this amusement park.
Yeah.
I do too. Hey, man, we have that Mothman versus Bigfoot roller coaster. We dreamed up a couple years ago.
I forgot about that.
That's a good one. All right. Well, we are joined by two amazing guests this week, returning to us from Monsters Among Us podcast, and then joining us for the very first time from Blurry Photos Podcast. Please give a Club Scout salute to the filmmaking team behind the new documentary Shadows of the Desert, High Strangeness in the Borrego Triangle, streaming on your TVs beginning March 5th. Mark your calendars. We have Derek Hayes and David Flora with us today. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
Now let's do the old. This is David. This is Derek, so people
yeah.
can know whose
As
voice
if
belongs
they
to
don't
which
know.
nice young man.
This is Derek, the voice that Derek will be using.
And this is David, the voice that Derek will try to use.
Now, Derek, we had you on the show last fall when you guys were doing the road show with the documentary.
Yeah.
But why don't you two gentlemen remind our listeners or tell our listeners for the first time why they should care about Shadows of the Desert?
Well, for starters, you guys are featured. You and Bryce are in the film, and Riley shot some footage for us. So you guys are heavily featured in this documentary that takes place here in Southern California. Essentially, we found this it's a big piece of land out in the desert east of, I'd say San Diego, Salton Sea area. There's a state park out there called Borrego Desert State Park. And we discovered all sorts of weird activity was going on out there, so we decided we're going to make a film about it.
Love it.
Yes.
David, did you experience any high strangeness alongside your companion, Derek, in the Borrego Triangle?
Truth be told, we did get something weird out there. It was a lot of fun to shoot, and, it was more fun to stay alive, I think, but there was
harder
one night,
to stay alive.
It was harder, but I had fun trying. There was one night where we were coming back from a shoot, and there we saw some weird lights on the horizon, and this is probably the only paranormal at least in the realm or adjacent thing that has happened to me in my life. Of course, we're not sure what it was, but there were several lights that were on the horizon and kind of floating in a 5 on top of 5 kind of configuration. And we got out and shot it and wasn't sure what it was. It was out towards the Salton Sea. And, it was one of those things where as we put the film together, we weren't sure how to include that section in there. So Derek, you can stop me if I give away too much on that, but we weren't really able to put that in the film, oddly enough, just because it didn't flow right with wherever we stuck it. And so the weirdest thing that happened to us isn't even in the film, but we like to talk about it.
Where's the footage now?
Well, we still have it, and
the government took it.
We have a plan for it. The government did take it. No, they didn't. We do have a plan for it, and people will get to see it at some point this year. We're just not legally allowed to say what we're doing with this yet.
Cool.
So what what were your conclusions about those? Yeah, what were your conclusions
that
about
was the
those?
point, yeah. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No. I mean, what were your, in the moment, looking at those lights, like what was going through your guys' minds? What words were you exchanging watching this?
Well, it was like sunset or something. It just had gotten dark, and we were shooting way on the other side of the triangle. We were coming into Borrego Springs, which is like it's in the center of the triangle and in one of the biggest towns, which is funny because there's like 50 people there. But so we come over the ridge, and suddenly it's just like David said, 4, 5, 6, something like that, orange orbs of light floating. It looked like above the Salton Sea, because I think we were seeing a reflection of it on the water. So it looked like there was 10 lights, but there was only probably 5.
That's like those lights over DC in '52. So many people thought that they were more than they were, but they were doubled because they were bouncing off of the Monument Lake.
Oh yeah. Well, what this reminded me a lot of was the UFO caught at 29 Palms. If you guys remember that from 2 years ago or so, that was the Delta-shaped craft that they caught over the Air Force Base over there near Joshua Tree.
Ooh, you need to remind us of this. I'm sure we covered it at the time, but I'm now forgetting it under all the dusty files that are now collecting in my brain.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Corbell released the footage.
Yeah.
David, do you remember when this was? 2 years ago? Something like that?
It sounds about like, I think it was a couple years ago.
It's just a video of a bunch of soldiers outside doing some sort of exercise, and they just look up, and there's this. It looks like a triangle or like a wedge shape.
This. Yeah, the flying pyramid.
But it's got the lights. Yeah, it's sort of like a flying pyramid, triangle, whatever you want to call it. Wow. But it looked very similar to that. So, of course, we get on the walkies. Everybody get out of the car, pull over, and we had our guy shoot. And he's like, I don't have the right lenses for this. Of course, that was like the joke that was ongoing throughout the shoot, that we never had the right equipment. But, we shot what we could, and we just didn't know what it was. It looked like, to me, it had something to do with the military. But the weird thing about it is, out there, so many of the UFO stories we heard also involve the military. They'll see something strange and a jet will be scrambled and chase it out. Or, helicopters will be seen in the same area where a UFO was saw just a few minutes before that. So there's some sort of ongoing connection between the military and this strange phenomena. So that really didn't slow me up any. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely intriguing.
You make a couple good points. One is that it's actually hard and difficult to capture anomalous phenomena, even with a film crew, right? Like everybody thinks it's so easy to just whip out your camera and get that unrefutable photo. Wrong. You try it. What I love about what you guys are doing and what you've done now is you've sort of are introducing the world to this idea that, hey, there's Bigfoots in the fucking desert, man. Check these guys out.
Yeah.
And I love that because those are some of our favorite Bigfoot stories. And, couple this along with the idea that I still get it, like with the Bigfoot. Isn't there only just the one? And like, no, it's not just the one, and I'm sure you guys must get it. Like Bigfoot in the desert. Come on, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were kind of like that to start out with. We were, part of the reason we wanted to explore it is because we were wondering if that is even possible. And back to the 64 Desert Magazine article that the ex-Marine talked about seeing tracks in the desert. And it's not only possible, we found out with this film process, but we talked to biologists that work in the park, and botanists, and we found out that there's nothing wrong with the idea that a creature could live out there on the stuff that's on the land. They could migrate from the higher elevation down to the lower at different times of year. And it really moved the needle for us on accepting the fact that, stuff could live out here, including a hominid like that.
Well, it makes sense too when, we went to the premiere at Idlewild last fall, which was a blast. And there is, you go up to Idlewild, which is up on a mountain, and you're in like Bigfoot territory. And I know that that's right on the cusp of what you guys call the Borrego Triangle, but you just go right down the mountain and suddenly you're in a completely different ecosystem. So, it is hard for us to wrap our brains around when we think about the desert in Southern California, how if creatures like Bigfoot exist, how they would survive out there. But you've got this giant forest, mountainous area right next to the desert. So it makes sense once you get out here and you see what this landscape, what our beautiful countryside in California actually looks like.
Hell yeah, man! Hell yeah! That's right. There's a lot of life in the desert.
I'll take that a little bit further. A lot of the dates that we checked on these sightings that have been reported to us and that we found basically correlates with that thought that these things are migrating. If an encounter was reported in the desert, the flatlands, it was always in the wintertime, never in the summer, and then vice versa with the mountains. And it's only like a half a day's walk or something for a person to go from below, to the higher altitude. So imagine how fast a Sasquatch can move up that slope.
Sasquatch speed. People don't, give Sasquatch enough credit. You got the Flash, and you've got the Roadrunner, and then you got Bigfoot. That's the order it goes in.
That's
more
right.
surface area that he hits and pushes off with.
Yeah.
The mid-tarsal break really scoots him along.
So, David, you've never been on the show before, which is a crime. And we got a little taste of it. But what's your personal paranormal history? How did you get into the field of high strangeness? And have you had any experiences beyond those lights that you've seen?
It has taken this long to have one. And, I can't even definitively say it's a real paranormal one, but it's the closest that I've come to one, if not. But I always grew up reading myth, like Greek myths, the Deloriers Greek myths, the Norse myths, those kind of things. Mythology is really kind of what got me interested in monsters and stories and gods and goddesses and magic and all that stuff.
Awesome.
And by the time I got into, the workforce proper as a young adult, I had a couple jobs that, I was either commuting to or was listening to stuff while I was at the job. And I just naturally was intrigued by these topics of cryptids and New Age beliefs and mysteries and the history behind them and everything. And I really just wanted to find out what's behind all this. Is it true? Should I be scared shitless? And
is there a monster that's going to eat me out there?
That is so well put, man.
Yeah. And so, I just started listening and taking in all these podcasts and old Coast to Coasts and all that stuff and decided, one day I was doing a podcast with an improv team in Chicago. And we would just talk about anything and nothing. And I started just bringing topics I would find in the news or hear about on these shows. The Cottingley Fairies. What do you guys think of those? The UFOs, the flap in the Phoenix Lights and stuff like that. I would just to discuss it and see what people thought. And then that kind of rolled into my own show of figuring out what's going on. And so I actually have become more skeptical about stuff as I've done the show for the past 12 years.
Love that. Yeah, that's interesting.
In what way have you become more skeptical? Like, how has that developed?
More able to critically think about stuff and ask questions and see, like, this sounds like bullshit. Is this possible? What's the science behind this? And what is the context that you have to put this in? So I'll give you a quick example. I just did an episode on the history of the devil, and I really tried to put that into historical context, where these stories came from. Where did we get the appearance, going from the red-skinned, horned-tailed devil to like the slick guy in the business suit who runs around naked on the show Lucifer or whatever. I don't watch it, but I tried to get to the bottom of this stuff and find out what are the historical sources for it and are they credible and things like that. So that's kind of what I try to do with Blurry Photos, is find out the credibility of stuff, put it in context, see if there's a scientific explanation. So that's kind of why.
How much of the hell and the devil stuff is just straight out of Dante's Inferno?
Quite a bit. Yeah, actually, and Milton's Paradise Lost.
Yeah, so much more of that comes out of there than it does the Bible. You would surprisingly so.
Yeah. But there's a lot of intertestamental literature that did not make it into the canon of the Bible, and it was basically fanfic. There's the Testament of Adam and Eve, the Gospel of Thomas, I think, things like that. Gospel of Judas. These things were kind of riffed on by the scholars at the time, because they were trying to deal with a god that wasn't as good as they, were kind of trying to portray him.
Right.
And so in the New
Testament, got to give this dude a bad guy.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're talking about Gnostic Christianity.
That's in there too, and you have to have a scapegoat for all this stuff. It can't be the god that's good, doing all this killing.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that at all, I've got a 2-part episode on the show, and I'm really proud of the research. It took me like 4 months to put together, so please listen to it.
Definitely want to hear that one.
I mean, I think it's a stark reminder that all these things are just concepts anyway. These energies that we're trying to describe, these emotions, these feelings. I mean, we anthropomorphize them and we put faces on them and cool horns and maybe a tail. That's pretty dope. But at the end of the day, no matter what your framework or your, I guess, belief system, it's all just a concept at the end of the day, and we're all just sort of struggling to grasp what these energies are as best as we can.
Mm-hmm. Deep.
So I'm curious, was there a big aha moment for you, David, when you were like, okay, I need to start thinking about this stuff more skeptically? Like, do you remember the moment or what story you might have been working on or case you were looking at where you're like, this has gone from, oh, I'm excited about this to, this might be more bullshit?
There were several steps to that. It was a gradual thing, but as I saw more and more how there could be explanations to things, or people were throwing things out there without giving evidence, or taking these giant mental leaps to get to where they were going. And then how they acted personally, getting defensive and shitty to people who were questioning it all. That kind of was red flags to me. But it was when I particularly started going into pseudoscience that it really kind of sang true, like homeopathy, for example, which when you boil that down, no pun intended. Or actually, I do intend a lot of puns in my show. But when you get to the bottom of that one, it's like you take a very small droplet of something that's in water, and then you distill it like 10,000 times. You just keep pouring it in fresh water and pouring that in fresh water, pouring that, until at the end you have something that is molecularly nothing like what the essence of the thing you dropped in there to begin with is like, and then they sell that to people and say it's this miracle cure and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And James Randi did a great bit on that in I think a TED Talk maybe, where he took a homeopathic liquid something, I forget what exactly it was, but he's like, it says, take a shot of this, or like a little 1 ounce of it, and he downed the whole bottle on stage, and he's like, guess I'm screwed now. And and he's like, no, I'm actually not, because this is bullshit. Like, there's nothing to this.
He famously died right there on the spot.
So it's just stuff like that where you find out there's just stupid shit behind it all, or somebody's trying something with it, and it just kind of taints everything to where you're like, okay, that's a great claim, but can you back it up?
Right.
To at least just ask some questions about it to see if it stands scrutiny. And then the things that come out of that pass that test, those are the cool things, Those are your Dyatlov passes, and maybe fluoride. Who knows about that? Like, that's one I'm not sure I don't believe.
The Patterson-Gimlin film.
Could be, yeah. I mean, there are some examples where you can't find a good reasoning or explanation for it, and that's what really is the cool stuff in this industry.
Now, it sounds like to me that makes you a really good partner for Derek, because Derek, one of the things that I love about Monsters Among Us is every time someone calls in with a story, you'll first try to come up with a rational explanation for what they go through, and then you'll say, but then again, here are some other cases that might apply to the high strangeness here. So do you try to bring the same skeptical approach to these stories?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you think about it, not every story I receive can be paranormal. There's going to be some misidentifications or some hallucinations. There's going to be some rational explanations for some of the things that are being reported. If you can kick those out of the list, kind of like David said, you get separate the wheat from the chaff, and what you have left is just a lot more interesting to me. The stuff you can't disprove suddenly becomes a lot more spooky, terrifying, frankly. So that's really why I do it. Well, also I'm seeking the truth. I mean, that's why we're all here, honestly. But the fact that you can give it a little bit of credence just by kicking a few other possibilities out, that speaks volumes to me for some reason.
So how did you two end up working together on Shadows of the Desert? How did this come to be? To manifest?
Well, for me, it started a long time ago. I used to listen to David's show long before I even thought about starting a podcast. So I was pretty influenced by, a lot of the stuff he was doing anyway. I don't remember how we ended up being friends. I think you asked me to be on the show or something, and we just been talking ever since. But as far as the documentary is concerned, my wife, Sarah, and I we still do, we go camping all the time. And we would camp in Borrego Springs and the Borrego Desert State Park. And I would collect all these stories from down there. I'd hear people talk about it. I'd look a couple things up here and there. And I really wanted to buy a book or a documentary or something on the subject and learn more. And I learned there was absolutely nothing out there. Huh. So for me, I was thinking, we have all of these reports ranging from UFOs, ghosts, ghost lights, Bigfoot, other cryptids, and nobody's talking about this stuff. So that's where the seed was planted that something needs to be done. I don't know if it's a book or a documentary, what it's going to be. And then I just kind of talked to David a little bit about it, and he's like, let's push this forward. And next thing you know, we're out in the desert, 122-degree heat, looking at each other like, what the fuck? What do we do this for?
Why couldn't we have done this in Hawaii? Why couldn't we pick a cooler location?
Well, we say it all the time. Speaking of cool, every cryptid that's going to last needs a cool-ass name. And, people love geometric patterns of paranormality. So the fucking Borrego Triangle, that's you guys. You get to own that shit now. And I think it'll make lexicon because the desert is so mysterious, and I don't know anybody else that picked up on those locations. So I think way to go, hats off. We've been talking about the strangeness of this desert for so long, and now we've got this. We have this Bermuda Triangle. We have other triangles. They're all over, and so now you guys have laid claim and stake to the Borrego Triangle of high strangeness, and I love that.
Yeah, triangle is the classic form that these places take, it seems like. But I mean, we were like, what can we workshop this name? Because we don't want to be just like everything, but right. Borrego trapezoid is stupid. So we were like, nah, it works for a reason.
Yeah,
let's just stick with triangle.
Exactly.
Don't fix
and everybody knows exactly what it means too when you hear Borrego Triangle.
Exactly.
Like, there's no question. That's an area of high strangeness, a window area, if you will.
Yeah. Why aren't there triangle cryptids? You feel like with this mud, you know what I mean?
There's
gotta be some like triangle men.
Well,
out there.
Think about the UFO,
Creepy.
the Merkaba. It's two triangles inverted on each other. That's two pyramids. So there go.
Triangle UFOs too.
Double triangle.
TR-3B UFO as well. Is
yeah,
triangle,
exactly. We got your triangles, Michael.
All right, good. That's all I want. Okay, boys. Well, let's see how much you two line up as partners. I'm going to go down a list.
This will be good.
Phenomena, rapid fire style. If you are open to it, now you got to come. You got to decide here and now. If you're open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you're not open to it, you're going to say bullshit. There's no in between. All right, gentlemen. This is a game that we like to call bullshit
or believe it.
All right, David, Derek, on your mark, get set, ghosts.
Believe.
Bullshit.
Bigfoot.
Believe, I think.
Bullshit.
Now, Derek, I'm going to tell you because everyone listening at home knows I'm going to scold you.
Yep.
You got to say believe it, okay?
Sorry,
it's not called
Come
bullshit.
down
a very
hard.
specific form.
How
in this
dare you
game,
come on
yes.
this show
How dare me?
for the third time and do this to me?
The nerve. All right, sorry.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Believe it.
Crystals.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Ouija boards.
Bullshit.
Super bullshit.
Tarot cards.
Bullshit.
Total bullshit.
Alien abductions.
Believe it.
I'll go with believe it on that one.
Shapeshifters.
I got to go with believe it on this one. I've heard too many stories.
Oh man, I could believe that one.
Gnomes.
Same thing. I've heard too many stories. I still got to say bullshit, though.
Bullshit.
Shadow people.
I believe that one. I believe it. Sorry. Believe it.
Bullshit. I think there's an explanation.
We can circle back. Astral projection.
Believe it.
Oh. Bullshit until I can do it myself.
Psychic dreams.
answer.
Believe it.
I could believe that.
Sheep squatch.
No, that's bullshit for me.
How dare I laugh? I'm
Bullshit.
sorry.
West Virginia. Sorry.
Bat squatch.
Bullshit again.
Bullshit.
The lizard man of Scape Swamp.
That's a cool name.
David, you go first this time.
Oh, bullshit.
Fine. Bullshit for me then, too.
Speaking to the dead.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Demons.
Bullshit.
Total bullshit.
Wendigos.
I believe it. Believe it. With a caveat.
Circle back.
Bullshit with a caveat.
Caveats.
Circle that one, Riley. We'll be back. Werewolves.
Now, I assume you are including Dogman.
Nope.
Michigan
Werewolves.
Dogman. Oh, okay.
Dogman's not on the list this
He
year.
said
Gotcha. All right, there's a difference.
You think we don't know the difference between a
Humans
werewolf and a
transforming
dog
into
man, Derek?
wolves. Yeah.
I do.
Dogman's a
I do.
dogman all day
Always
long.
becoming men
Dog,
becoming
Yes.
yeah, come on.
Gotcha.
Dog man
I
all
gotcha.
day.
Bullshit.
Love that. It's such a
In that
funny
case,
bit.
fine. Bullshit all day.
Bullshit.
Parallel universes.
Believe it.
Believe it.
Past lives.
Reluctantly believe it.
I kind of reluctantly would believe too. Believe
Wow. Doppelgangers.
Well, I believe it.
it. Bullshit.
Destiny.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Life after death.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Well, you two
Wow.
are just a
All
party.
right.
Like punched
Yeah,
me in
we're
the
all over the
heart
place,
after
too.
that pause. Yeah.
Really big into monsters and UFOs, not so much into the afterlife is my takeaway from this. All right, David, what was your explanation for shadow people?
Shadow people, I feel like could be explained by one's own brain manifesting and trying to make patterns and trying to deal with what you're seeing when you're not really awake. You're kind of in between. So it's a brain manifestation, I think.
Got it. Okay, I'm open to that. Wendigos, boys. Where do you fall on Wendigos? What's your theory? What's the caveat?
I can't help but, let me start with a quick story. I got snowed in up here for 15 days last year, and at day 14, I was thinking about eating people.
Yep.
So I could see how a certain psychosis could develop that causes people to go
Right.
nuts and think they need to eat people. Do they turn into creatures? I don't know about that, but I
Well,
could see
define
their
creature.
mind changing and altering. Well,
Yeah.
that's very true, Bryce.
Yeah.
Spiritually, symbolically, you're a creature. I mean, you're stepping
That's a
outside
good point.
the confines of civilized society. At that point, you are an other. Once you break those rules.
Yeah, for me, it's the concept and allegory of what a Wendigo is that I believe in, more so than a creature or something that is physically manifesting.
Yeah, and Riley circled past lives as well.
There was sort of a reluctant belief on that one. That
Well, I said bullshit the ghost, I believe. Or no, I said believe it the ghost and then bullshit the past lives. And I was contradicting myself. And I don't know why I thought that. I honestly don't know why.
I thought you
this game
said
does that
you
to
said
you.
believe
Work
it on
yourself into
past
corners.
lives.
Yeah, it was like, believe it. One of those.
Reluctantly.
But I'll tell you what, if you go back and listen to my answers to each time I've played this game, they're wildly different
Sure
each
they
and
are.
every
It's
time.
a snapshot in time. That's why we play it again and again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes
It's
to
where you're
all,
at.
no to all.
It's where you're at today. That's right. Yeah. All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for this week's story of high strangeness. February is a month for lovers. So, guys, let's ask this. Do you want to have better sex, but erectile dysfunction is getting in the way? If so, you're not alone. Millions of men deal with the hardships of ED, but with HIMS, there's a simpler, affordable way to get treated for ED, so you can get your groove back in the bedroom at a cost you desire.
That's right. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable and discreet sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch, which I love. HIMS provides access to clinically proven generic alternatives to Viagra and Cialis, so you know that it's going to be up to 95% cheaper. That's right, with options as low as $2 per dose.
The process is simple and 100% online, so no uncomfortable doctor's visits. All you have to do is answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free and in discreet packaging.
That's right, and you'll also like this. There's no insurance needed. That's right, pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. HIMS has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers. So, if ED's getting you down, it's time to change that.
Start your free online visit today at hims.com/BCC. That's HIMS.com/BCC for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/BCC. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, David and Derek. Now, I know you boys aren't strangers to the Southwest, but how well do you know one of the most famous hotspots of Old West hauntings? I'm talking about Tombstone, Arizona, yo.
Yes! Cowboy time!
Has anybody here, Riley, you know what kind of music you need to cue up for this one?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Don't need to
I'm
say.
tuning up the banjos. I got the fiddle
Hell
dusting
yeah.
it
There
off.
you go. Now, let's kick this off. Has anybody here been to Tombstone before?
No.
I have not.
No, boys.
I actually haven't, weirdly either. Spindrift went through there before I was in the band, and they shot a tour doc film where they played all ghost towns across the U.S.
Doc Holliday's buried there, isn't he? And Wyatt Earp too, right? I think.
I believe
Holiday's
so.
buried in Colorado.
Yeah,
I do know that
Holiday.
randomly.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I
That's
don't know
cool,
if they obviously spent a lot of time there, which we'll get into, and there is a famous cemetery. So
Cool.
I've been there before. It's great. It's kind of like going to Dodge City, but in Kansas. It's sort of a well preserved cowboy town, Southwest town, and it's great. They have lots of reenactments. It's sort of like a cowboy cosplayer's dreamland, if you will. It's a bit of a theme park. It's a bit of a historical attraction and museum, and it's still a functioning place where you can, go to a saloon and get a beer. So I highly recommend it if you're anywhere near Tucson. It's not that far not too far to get there from Tucson. So check it out. So Tombstone is, of course, a famous Old West town, the site of the gunfight at the OK Corral and legendary Western characters like Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. If you were coming of age in 1993, you probably saw the movie starring Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer in your local shopping mall movie theater at least twice, like yours truly. And one thing you can be sure about when it comes to the old... I mean, come on, Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday is like one of the best performances of all time. Mm-hmm. One thing you can be sure about when it comes to the Old West... Wherever you find high noon, you find high strangeness. This week, we are looking at some of the most haunted places in Tombstone, Arizona.
Killer.
First up, the obvious one, the OK Corral. The OK Corral was the setting for the most famous shootout in the Old West, which took place on October 26, 1881 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it only lasted 30 seconds. The gunfight was between lawman Virgil Earp, his brothers Wyatt and Morgan, alongside Doc Holliday, who was a famous gunslinger and temporary policeman, versus a group of outlaw cowboys led by Billy Claiborne, the result of an escalating feud between the two parties. The fight ended with 3 dead cowboys and Virgil and Holliday wounded, but they survived. Now, here's what you may not know. The gunfight actually took place 6 doors down from the corral. But that doesn't mean that historical gunslingers don't visit that locale today. Eyewitnesses have seen shadowy figures roaming around, and they haven't even just woken up, David. Disembodied footsteps and voices can be heard, and at least one eyewitness claims that the ghostly image of a long-dead, unidentified gunslinger passed right through him. Ooh. It's also rumored that the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday returned to replay the famous gunfight. Either that or the famous incident is stuck on cosmic replay. And then there's Justice Jim Burritt, a tall, thin spirit riddled with bullets, who has been seen entering the old office building around the corner from the corral, floating down the thoroughfare, and peeking into the windows at staff members. Burritt was gunned down by his nemesis William Green in 1897 in an act of revenge.
Cool.
You remember peeking? Didn't we do that? Wasn't that one of the... That's a callback, deep cut.
Yeah. I don't even remember what that's from, but I do remember that.
Jim Burritt, this guy he basically like wouldn't allow this guy William Green to build a dam because it was fucking up his property, and then William Green's 2 daughters drowned in a flood when the river flooded, and Green was pissed at Burritt because they had like this neighborly feud going, and so he murdered Justice Jim.
Damn.
So you can still see all the bullet holes in his ghost, which is pretty cool, I guess.
This is for my daughters, you son of a bitch!
You gotta be a ghost, an Old West ghost full of bullet holes.
Because they drink, that's when they drink the whiskey and then it sprouts out of their hole.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That would be my ghost trick for sure.
Yeah.
Hell yes. That would be totally awesome.
I need a shot of whiskey and a mop.
Yep. All right, well, let's swing by the Birdcage Theater. The Birdcage Theater was described by the New York Times in 1882 as the roughest, bawdiest, and most wicked night spot between Basin Street and the Barbary Coast.
I was wondering when Applesauce would
Yeah,
finally
it was
join
only
us
a matter
for
of time before
he
he
used
showed
to
up.
fighting the edge of it. I was like, we're doing Old West, old timey.
He used to write for the New York Times back when he had all his teeth.
Right.
And then he went from Appalachia to New York to the big city, and then Tombstone, Arizona.
And he's 162 years old now.
You never know. He's kind of a little spirit,
the lore is growing.
I
All right,
think he's a leprechaun. Also, his head might be an actual apple, depending on some.
That's true, depending on which
some depictions of him. So this former nightclub hosted 26 deaths from gunfights, stabbings, and suicides. So 26 deaths took place at the Birdcage Theater, and it is said to have a wait list full of poltergeists and spectral forms trying to make their way in. While touring the premises, you might catch the ghostly whiff of whiskey or cigar smoke, or catch the glimpse of a long... I love it. Come on.
That's cool.
Come on.
Sorry,
At a bar?
You might catch a whiff of whiskey when you go into this theater with a bar, probably.
Ghost whiskey, David. Ghost whiskey. There's a
Ghost
difference.
whiskey.
Sorry, yeah,
When
there is
nothing's being poured.
If you have $9, you might be able to sniff some whiskey.
mustier.
It's mustier.
I don't think
that's
it's
all.
still
That's
an
the only
active
difference.
nightclub. I'm not sure. I think it's just sort of a museum, but who knows?
Okay.
You might also catch a glimpse of
Guy
long
on
dead
duty
stagehands
drinking from his flask.
crossing the stage. Now, the most famous ghost in the birdcage is that of Margarita, the Painted Lady, a former madam who was murdered by her competitor from the Crystal Palace, whose name was Little Gertie, a.k.a. Gold Dollar. And they
my
say they called
goodness.
Gertie Gold Dollar because she was so short. They just called her Gold Dollar because she was tiny like a gold coin.
Like a pence piece.
What
Yeah.
a place this was.
So
These nicknames are great.
I know. So the story goes that this guy, Billy Milgreen, who was Gold Dollar's lover over at the Crystal Palace, was cheating, stepping out on Gold Dollar with Margarita, the Painted Lady, over at the birdcage. And that when Gold Dollar found out, Little Gertie found out that her man was hanging out at the wrong establishment, she went over to the birdcage with a stiletto knife, got close to Margarita and stabbed her, murdering her with the stiletto. And then she ran out. Even though there were eyewitnesses, they couldn't find the murder weapon. And Little Gertie, a.k.a. Gold Dollar, walked scot-free from this murder.
Whoa.
And then years later, they were like digging stuff out in the back behind the birdcage, and they found the stiletto knife buried back there. So now it's on display. So the murder weapon was found.
We got her now,
years later.
boys.
Yeah, got her now.
Get that rope ready.
Margarita isn't the only female apparition that has been encountered at the birdcage. Employees speak of a high class, which was uncommon for such an establishment, a well-dressed woman in white who has manifested in the dark hours of the night. And here is a quote that Bryce is going to read from one of the employees.
Almost everyone who works here has had an experience of some kind with the lady in white. I've seen her. She came down the stairwell and into the poker room. She wore a white dress and a white bonnet. She stood in front of me for a long time without reacting to my presence at all. It's like she didn't even know I was there. Wild. She's what they call a residual haunt. Residual, right? Residual. No, residual. That's it. Residual haunt. No one has ever identified who she is. A bonnet indicates she was a proper lady, I think, and no proper ladies ever came in here. Most of us who work here think she came in with the hearse. Now she's trapped here.
This employee, of course, is working summers during his summer break from Arizona State University.
That's right. Yeah, it's a
Where-
great gig.
He majors in keggers
Marine
I did.
and body
biology.
surfing.
That's right on both counts. Sweet.
Now, the ghost of Billy Clanton is also said to float down to Tombstone and visit the birdcage. Billy was William Harrison Clanton, one of the Cochise County outlaw cowboys that was killed in the OK Corral shootout. He likes to sit in the Clanton box seat at the theater. The Clanton name is still a family name that exists and lives in Tombstone today. At one point, staff placed a mannequin of Wyatt Earp in the box, a gesture which Billy Clanton's ghost did not appreciate. The staff would occasionally arrive to find that the mannequin's hat had been knocked off or the figure knocked down or turned around. And once the staff realized their offense, the mannequin of Wyatt Earp was removed and left untouched. So Billy was like, "Get this guy out of my
That's interesting.
family box."
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. Now, the aforementioned Crystal Palace, where Gold Dollar was running the show, is also allegedly brimming with supernatural activity. The former stomping grounds of Doc Holliday, that was the brothel he liked to go to, and his Lady of the Night lover, Big Nose Kate. Big Nose Kate, everybody.
They just keep getting better. These names.
The
Why
Crystal
would her
Pa-
parents name her that?
I don't know.
A
Her,
premonition.
It's just a moniker, David.
something tells me it's not. Something also tells me like it's not her nose that was big. You know what I mean? There was
Wait a
something
minute.
else that they were nicknamed.
Well, unpack
I'm just
that. What do
saying.
you mean? I'm only getting nose.
I know, but sometimes these tend to be a little dirty. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So maybe she
Are
had
you saying
other...
she's
Giant honkers.
Yeah,
she had
are you
giant
saying she
honkers or-
sniffs a lot of cocaine? That's what I'm getting.
No, I was just saying...
It's probably that, honestly.
I'm just saying.
By these stories, I would say it's...
There
That's
might be
what I-
other
yeah.
lady parts that are a little larger than usual. Now, I'm just speculating here.
That's
but
all I'm saying. We're
sometimes
picking
I
up
don't
on
think it's
multiple.
always a nose.
Yeah. It's mysterious. I like it.
All right, so the Crystal Palace is said to host numerous poltergeists, including a well-dressed Victorian gentleman who appears at one of the tables in the dining hall, routinely stands up, walks into the men's room, and never walks out.
Speaking of cocaine.
Oh, dining lunch.
Well, I think we've
yeah.
solved that one.
A scantily
good.
clad woman has also been seen manifesting at the bar, leading some to speculate whether or not this is the ghost of Big Nose Kate herself. In a 2009 article for the Arizona Daily Sun, Crystal Palace manager Colin Regan said this during an interview.
I've witnessed the roulette wheel at the Crystal Palace move by itself. I'm from Boston, and I had never seen the kinds of things that I'm seeing since I started working here. I gotta tell you, it's a little creepy.
Missed opportunity for a Boston accent, but when you
Nobody's
find out where
seen
they're
Big
from,
Nose Kate out here. I've seen a lot of stuff since I started, but sometimes Big Nose Kate's in the yard, but I don't mess with her.
It's wicked weird.
It's wicked cool to see her. Yeah, wicked weird around here.
if you're looking for a place to stay the night in Tombstone, and you don't mind being the only guest sharing the room, then the Buford House Bed and Breakfast might be for you. Legend has it that the Buford House is haunted by former resident George Daves, who called the building his home long before it was a B&B. George's story is a tragic one. He was in love with a woman named Petra, his childhood sweetheart, who grew up across the street. And the story goes when Petra scorned George by dumping him for another man at a party, Mr. Daves sought to even the score by loading up his pistol and shooting her 4 times, hitting her twice in the torso, and then shooting himself in the head, killing himself one night in August of 1888. Thankfully, Petra survived the gun attack, and the spirit of George, the epitome of toxic masculinity in a town brimming with radioactive men, lives on in the Buford House.
Now, something you didn't say there, it's the Buford Mad Dog Tannen house, right?
Oh, yeah,
That's why it's so
yeah.
That was a
the
documentary? I had no idea.
Masculinity, yeah.
So his presence has been seen in a shadowy form moving through the rooms, occasionally appearing in mirrors. George enjoys ringing the doorbell late at night, knocking on walls, and flicking light switches on and off. Little twat. One guest had a terrifying experience one night when she woke to the sensation of an electric buzz cascading through her body and watched in terror as the covers slid off of her bed. She could then feel the light sensation of a hand on her skin, which thankfully stopped as soon as her friend woke up to see what was startling her companion. George, fuck off.
Wow.
Fuck off, George!
We can't talk about Haunted Tombstone without talking about one of the most, or I'd say more famous internet ghost photos of all time. The 1996 Boot Hill
I just saw
Cemetery
it.
ghost photo.
Oh, shit.
Now, I'll have this up on the Instagram for everybody to take a peek at this.
Oh, I just caught that.
This was taken by Billy Clanton's descendant. Now, Billy Clanton, you remember, is the ghost who was killed at OK Corral, who didn't like Wyatt Earp's mannequin in his box seat. This is his descendant, Ike Clanton, who took the photo.
Yeah.
The photo is of one of Ike Clanton's friends who was visiting Tombstone, and they were in the Boot Hill Cemetery.
Wow.
His friend dressed up in cowboy cosplay, and Clanton wanted to... He shot him off-center so he could get a view of the mountain range in the backdrop. It's a black and white photo. So in the background, you see the cemetery, and there appears to be the top half of a man dressed in a black flat-brimmed hat emerging from the ground, almost as if they were rising from the grave. Ike Clanton claims that there was nothing in the background when the photo was taken. The figure was not discovered until his friend developed the film back home 2 weeks later. And whatever the object is, it's been investigated. It is in the negative. So this was not photoshopped into the image.
Do you know what this reminds me of, Michael? This reminds me of the Solway Firth Spaceman a little bit, right?
Totally.
Like how a camera
captures
captures some sort of anomalous figure in the background. That is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, as far as I know, this image has never been debunked. There are lots of theories. There's one I read where someone was like on Skeptic, where it's like they could have gotten like one of those boxing mannequins and stuffed him in the ground and put a hat on him, you know, but like, okay, but that seems like if you're going to fake a ghost photo, I don't know why you would do it that way. Seems to be a lot of work for not a lot of reward.
David and this Derek, could just be a person, right?
Yeah, it could be, but it seems to be so low to the ground and small.
He didn't know that dude was back there taking a shit when he pressed the
Oh no!
Now, have either of you guys
hang on.
Do you know what's interesting too, though, is that
taking a look at this pic.
The gun is pointed at him, so it kind of, you can make an argument
at it.
You can make an argument that that makes it a little suspicious, but you could also make an argument, that makes it even the more interesting, you know. So I like this photo.
Well, it's sort of like a trigger object, right, Bryce?
Yeah.
Something that's
literally.
I'm just gonna throw this out here.
Yeah.
Just try to. To me, this could be one of those things, and the reason it became so famous is because it's so pervasive that because of the way this lines up, your brain really wants to see that hat, and that hat triggers everything else to be.
It could be.
Just like unsee that for a second and see that as a patch of shadow.
Yeah.
And see a couple rocks.
It's pareidolia at
some
its
of
finest.
that plant in front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it could just be like it's just an exceptional case of it where you can't really unsee it.
No, I'm gonna go Ghost Cowboy.
There's nothing there.
Now I've taken.
I'm going to take. That's definitely the more fun.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Ghost Cowboy.
I will say if you zoom, but I'm going to try to drop. This was from the article from Skeptic Magazine. Let me see if I can drop this into. Now this is a close up of the image. Now that looks like a person with a hat to me. David and Derek, I will email this to you guys as well. But David, Derek, have you come across this photo before?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for me, this is a photo that I've been looking at for, ever since it came out, I bet. I don't know where I first saw it, but all this stuff, you just absorb it, and it's just filed away back there somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always creeped me out. It's a rare daytime ghost image as well. Like typically, these images are at night where a lot of shadows are at play. This is just wide open, bright Arizona day. One thing I do want to say, though, looking at this close-up, look at the man's face. I assume it's a man. It's gaunt.
Yeah.
Like it's really skinny and gaunt.
Fits the time.
Like people were back in those days.
Right.
And not
it certainly does.
Not super old west either. It looks more like maybe early 1900s or as late as the 20s to me.
Yeah.
I like
it would be interesting to get a hat expert to look at this and say, what's the date of this style of hat? When did somebody wear this style? When was that popular?
This also makes me think of when we did the episode about Borrego Rectory with Mike Mitchell from Doughboys, and we talked about how when workers were working on Borrego Rectory and renovating the house and the church, that one of the workers saw a figure walking. I believe it was above the ground, like 2 feet, walking across the road. And was a historical looking figure. And they sort of said, well, 200, 300 years ago, the incline was much higher, and over the years it's eroded down. So if it was sort of like a time warp thing, then that might explain why you saw somebody walking above or appearing to float above the ground, when in their timeline they're actually just walking where the ground was. And maybe it's some sort of overlap. I wonder if... I guess the graves would say, but I'm just trying to figure if is there this much difference in the grade if this was somebody from the past? I don't know. Why would they be sticking halfway through the ground, I guess.
The original ground would be lower for him, so it appears as though he's in the ground.
I've heard the same thing about Roman legions marching in roads in Britain. And then some people have seen, a legion march by ghostly form just going through the walls and stuff, but they're only about halfway out of the floor. And they're like, but that's where the Roman roads were at the time. And then it's been built on top of ever since,
I don't know. It's cool stuff. Everyone take a look at this on the Instagram and let us know what you think. Is this a ghost photo or not?
Wait, hold on. I have to now weigh in one more time.
Yes, please.
So I take back what I said before. I don't think it's pareidolia at this point, seeing the close up. However, what I do notice is that the sun is consistent in that object as it is in the object in the foreground. Like the way that the shadow's coming off the chin there, and on like that little shadow that the brim of the hat is throwing. So that gives a very physical object sense to me of it, which does make me feel like it's staged or just a mistake. I'm not going to call him a liar. Like maybe there was just something there,
I'm with you on that, Riley, because the framing of the photo, the guy in the forefront there is in the at least right half or third of the photo, and clearly is leaving space on his left shoulder.
It does feel,
which it could be a coincidence. He might be like, here's a couple tombstones, I'm just going to angle it this way or whatever. But it is pretty coincidental.
The photographer claims that he wanted to get the mountains in the shot. That's what he said.
I've heard that before.
Great. They're still coming out of the right side of his head. Yeah. He could have stood anywhere.
He's looking like a stud. Sweet mustache.
Photos like this and the Solway Firth Spaceman are absolutely anomalous. Kodak looked at the print of the Solway Firth and could explain nothing. Now, these are only 2 photos. How many photos are out there in the world that have sort of anomalous ghost figures in them that we really just either haven't looked at, haven't taken the time to notice, or put under,
Somebody
scrutiny?
needs to put together a ghost photo yearbook.
Yes, and I'm also thinking about becoming a ghost hat expert. I think I could make a little money with that.
Ghost hat expert. I like that.
I think there's a niche to fill.
I think there's a niche to fill. But what I'm
hats.
saying is, this goes along with this idea that this phenomenon takes place on a spectral level that sometimes we just can't interpret. And sometimes sensitive equipment like cameras and microphones and other types of highly sensitive equipment can pick up this anomalous phenomena better than our own sensory equipment that we're attached to. So I love this photo, and I think there's a lot more out there just like them.
Well, little doggies, if you're a fan of the paranormal, like Bryce, or simply wish to visit a place where famous figures of the Old West still walk among us today, I recommend checking out Tombstone, Arizona, a little southwestern town with a big history where legends never die.
Hey, Applesauce, I'm calling you out. Meet me out in the yard. We're going to have us a draw.
Hee hee hee. And then Applesauce hops into a little tree hole.
No,
and
he's
then
dead.
you don't find him for 100 years.
No, I didn't even give him the grace of an actual rudimentary jaw. Just shot him on sight as soon as he walked out that corral.
That's not canon.
It's not canon. That's fan fiction.
Apple duel! Everybody come quick, there's an apple duel down the street.
All right. Derek, David, remind everyone where they can find Shadows of the Desert, High Strangeness, and the Borrego Triangle.
Well, March 5th, it begins streaming. You can pre-order now by going to borregotriangle.com. It's BORREGO. It's going to be available on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and a whole slew of other locations. I think cool. that's all we need to know. Go to that website. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
You can rent or buy it for about 90 days, I think there is what they're running that cycle, right, Derek?
Something like that, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I need to buy it for my collection, so.
Great, love it. If you're a physical media person,
yes.
or is it possible to get your hands on physical copies of it?
Yes, there will be DVDs available. I want to say a couple weeks after the digital release.
Rad.
They'll be available on like Walmart, Amazon, all the places you get DVDs these days.
Right on. I'm definitely going to get one of those from my library.
Well, I think I speak for the BCC boys real quick when I just say thank you guys for not only making that film, but asking us to participate in it too and render our voices on the strangeness of the desert. So we appreciate you guys and what you do. And hey, BCC listeners, man, this is one of those weird little films that you need to watch and need to own. And I just love it. And way to go, guys.
Thank you.
Well, we can't thank you guys enough for being part of it as well.
Yeah. Really upped the quality of the film from these two jabrones. So
Certainly did, yeah.
Well, thanks.
Certainly did.
That's
Also,
great. Thank you guys.
the first cinematic appearance of the BCC. So it starts there.
That's right.
That's the first movie we're in.
We're part of the BCCU.
That's right.
You are.
BCCCU.
I like that.
BCCCU. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Real quick, plug your podcast. Where can people listen to your shows?
You can find Monsters Among Us podcast anywhere you find a podcast. We release every Thursday. It's a call-in show about monsters. Go check it out.
You can find Blurry Photos in the same spots. I release whenever I get the research done. So it's not often anymore, but I try to do quality episodes. And then I'm also a co-host on Hysteria 51 if you like comedy with your paranormal stuff. And if you like trivia, listen
They're
to
listening
Quiz,
to
Bang,
this.
Bang.
They don't. If they,
Real dry,
Yeah.
just the
Super
facts.
serious.
yeah, they
Super
don't.
serial. So, yeah, that's where I am at.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, David. And thank you, Derek. We'll talk to you real soon.
Of course.
Thank you.
Huge thanks again to Derek and David. And before we head on over to Collector's Corner, let's thank some Club Scouts who have recently joined us
Let's
on
do it.
BCC The Other Side. Let's do it, boys. Tad Stones,
Thank you.
Joshua Sprouse,
Thank you.
Mary Manson, Cosmeteer,
Thanks, Mary. Welcome.
Alan Wojciechowski.
Thanks, Alan.
I did an okay job
It's
on
a
that
tough
one, I
name.
think.
Yeah, I'm sure Alan understands.
Alan Dubs, Jay Whitman,
Thanks, Jay.
Evan Diamond,
Thanks, Evan.
Allison Ruiz,
Thank you, Allison.
Tiffany Villa,
Thank you, Tiffany.
Steve Susevic,
Thanks, Steve.
Joshua Popatov,
Thank you, Joshua.
Henrik Forrester, Cosmeteer.
It's Henrik's son, Forrester.
Oh, you're
Thank
right.
you.
Henrikson
Welcome.
Forrester,
I got you.
Cosmeteer.
Caught it.
Yeah, thank you. Alfarius, Cosmeteer. I mean,
Alfarius.
if there's an
What a name.
Alfarius, he's definitely...
They're on the Cosmeteer. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Alfarius, I
Yes.
have waited your arrival. We will recruit you
Ryan.
later.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anita Weinberg, Cosmeteer.
Oh, thanks, Anita. Welcome.
And finally, my favorite name of the week, Blastoise Collector. I want to see your collection. Thank you, Blastoise Collector.
Blastoise.
We got loves their Pokemon. All right, head over to patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club to unlock total access to 3 bonus eps every month, the BCC Discord, and more. Upgrade to the Cosmeteer membership to unlock 3 music tracks from our dear super producer, Riley. Also, if you have a strange encounter, please write into us at BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com. Send us any weird paranormal videos we have so we can get those up over on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@BigfootCollectorsClub. Go give us a subscribe over there. Okay, let's swing by the Collector's Corner. Let's find out what else we're working on and what we're currently collecting, reading, watching, or simply into. I'll kick it off. Everyone watch Bookie on Max, season 1, streaming now. Season 2 coming sometime in the future. I'm in a couple episodes. Would love to be back, so go check that out. Speaking of Max, I don't know if you guys, I'm a couple episodes behind, but the new season of True Detective Night Country, are either of you guys watching this?
Oh, no, but I need
it,
some
no.
new content.
Oh.
Damn.
It's a little spooky, supernaturally feeling.
Okay.
And it's also got inspiration from the Dyatlov Pass
Really?
case.
No.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Wow. Which
Big
I'm an
time.
expert
so
on.
Club Scouts, Club Scouts need to be watching
Sorry.
that. You'll know what I mean when you see it.
Yeti Massacre.
Also, I just want
Watch
to
it
give a
on
shout
Max.
out. I got to recommend from a comic book and 80s toys lovers. I don't know if you guys are checking this out, but Robert Kirkman, who does Invincible and Walking Dead, is masterminding a sort of reboot of all the Hasbro 80s toys comics.
Oh, really?
So like G.I. Joe, and Transformers, and then he's writing one himself called Void Rivals, but it's sort of like a relaunch of that shared universe, and the comics are shockingly so good. And so if you're looking for some new books to read, it's all under his Skybound imprint over on Image. I highly recommend checking out those books. The art is fantastic too on all titles. So
there you go.
That's what I'm into right now. Bryce, what do you got?
Cool. Check this out. Hey, you guys out there, who likes country music? I do. How about outlaw country music? I do. So I've been listening to outlaw country, I guess, for the last 10 years or so. And there's not a lot of new stuff that comes into sort of that sound, that tone. But my brother Brett turned me on to this guy, Colter Wall, Colter Wall. And holy shit, this guy's 28, but he sounds like old Golden Throat himself. What a sound, man, coming out of this kid. He's from Saskatchewan.
Big Nose Kate.
Big Nose. He's got Kate McCannon. He's got a song called Kate McCannon. But he comes out of Saskatchewan, Canada. And get this, he doesn't do interviews. Why? Because he's fucking works on a ranch full time. He doesn't have time for your fucking interview. And he's too busy smoking those Camel Wide non-filters, which gives him that beautiful voice.
He's too busy taking people down to the train station, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So if you like that,
Yellowstone.
If you like that old country sound, give old Colter Wall a search on your search engine on Spotify or Pandora or however you listen to your BCC podcast.
Wow, I love it. I'm definitely going to listen to that. I feel like I've heard that name kicking
I
around.
can't believe I've missed it for this long. It came as a total by surprise. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a feeling he's going to do well.
Great. I mean, the fact that he's working on a ranch and not doing interviews, even if it is calculated, is just like
so cool.
Good job. Live your life. Do well.
Yeah. Riley, how about you, man? What's going in the Riley mind?
Let's see. Well, Tommy put out a couple of B-sides from the record.
Oh, that's
Sweet.
cool.
A few weeks ago. It's stuff that Pam had made on her own. I mean, most of that record, pretty much all of it really truly is it's Pam made that record. It had come together sort of before I ended up joining the band, but she had a few of these B-sides that weren't on the record. We were listening to them. I was like, these are so good, Pam.
Wow.
Like, you should
the
put these out.
B-sides always are, man.
They're like some of my favorite ones. So yeah, go check those out. Pop over to Spotify and or wherever you listen to music these days. I mean, if you want to buy a record, we'll mail it to you ourselves. But yeah, just go check out the new Tommy record, Late Bloomer, and check out the recently released B-sides.
Awesome.
Great. Sounds good. All right, everyone. Well, we're crossing over to the other side for a fun Q&A episode. If we don't see you over there, we'll be back here next week for an all-new episode of BCC. Until then, good night.
Go get regress, partner.
I'm still in my hidey hole.
Oh, God damn it!
I knew it.
Well,
I'll
won't you
see
die,
you
you
in
son of a
100
bitch?
years.
Applesauce will ride again.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray and Michael McMillan and scored and engineered by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Sun Eaters, courtesy of Lotus Pool Records. Do us a favor and support the show and unlock 3 bonus episodes every month by becoming a member of our Patreon, BCC The Other Side, which can be found at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club.